Those seagulls are singing rather merrily, or calling rather merrily. In light of DareDevil Born Again releasing its second season on Disney+,
Saw or shovel?
I reckon this would be a good opportunity to talk about a creative pitch for an idea that the video game industry has a lot of potential for. Make an adaptation of Daredevil on the VR headset. Allow me to explain. The video game industry has seen mainstream success from their adaptations of beloved superheroes, dating all the way back to Batman Arkham Asylum, and all the way to the modern day with other entries like other installments of the Batman Arkham series, the Spider-Man game for the PlayStation 4, Marvel Rivals, and Guardians of the Galaxy, and even an entire Telltale series based on Batman, just to name a few. Now, Daredevil has been gaining some attention again thanks to Marvel Rivals, and of course his television adaptation with Charlie Cox. Given the interest of adapting singular superheroes in their own respective games, I'm going to explain to you right now why I specifically think the VR headset would be an excellent means of depicting the superhero Daredevil. Just to refresh you on the premise, Daredevil tells the story of Matthew Murdock, a lawyer who during his childhood suffered from a chemical accident that led to him becoming blind, but at the same time, the chemicals enhanced his hearing to such an amazing extent that they've almost entirely replaced his ability to see, almost. In his words, he sees a world on fire.
Okay, but what does that look like? Like, what do you actually see?
A world on fire.
I'll get back to that. And being trained in martial arts, Matthew Murdock has taken it upon himself to go out at night and install fear into criminals by expertly beating them up, still sparing his enemies to honor his Catholic faith, whilst simultaneously finding a means to lash out his rage, donning on the urban nickname, the Devil of Hell's Kitchen. And yes, Hell's Kitchen is a real location in New York. Now, Daredevil has been translated well in the context of a hero shooter for Marvel Rivals. But if you wanted to make a full-on adaptation of Daredevil that not only allows people to step in the superhero's footsteps, just like the Arkham series did for Batman, but the reason why I specifically think VR would work tremendously well for Matthew Murdock, aka Daredevil, is because it'll allow people to see what Matthew Murdock sees. See the world on fire, and have an entire game where characters have to learn to use their hearing ability to navigate the different environments. How awesome would that be?
If you ever thought Daredevil is just a regular blind guy, you'd be wrong. Many people have assumed this, but Daredevil's abilities make him truly unique. His powers come from an accident where he was exposed to radioactive chemicals, which in a sense granted him extraordinary abilities in exchange for his eyesight. Daredevil perceives his surroundings through vibrations similar to echolocation. This gives him a 360-degree awareness of his environment, and he can detect heartbeats, footsteps, and even lies by sensing changes in pulse. Then he also feels subtle textures and vibrations, making him an expert at reading fine details such as printed ink, and his sense of smell is precise enough to track people. Though with these heightened senses, his reflexes are lightning fast, making him a deadly fighter.
Now, interestingly enough, there's already been a VR game which puts players in the perspective of a blind person, and the person has to navigate different environments through sound. And also, this VR game that I'm proposing should take a lot of inspiration from Batman Arkham Shadow, in the same way that the Spider-Man game took inspiration from the Batman Arkham games. I mean, think about it. Think about it. The sense of combat and flow from Batman Arkham Shadow combined with the sense of navigation from that one VR game where you're a blind person navigating the different environments. And through the VR headset, you're seeing what Matthew Murdock sees, in a sense, the world on fire with the red outlines and whatever makes sound, the vision, if you will, becomes clearer. And using these hand controllers, it would be a great way to pick stuff up and to equip yourself with Daredevil's signature batons and beat the living snot out of different enemies, and then press another button to activate some kind of whip mechanics to launch at your enemies, and of course do the whole attack counter-attack mechanic that was established in Batman Arkham Shadow for the VR headset. That would be so cool to have. Not to mention, this could also be a great opportunity to have some segments of stepping into the shoes of Matthew Murdock in the daytime as a defense attorney lawyer. You could have these sequences that pay homage to Ace Attorney, where Matthew Murdock is doing some investigating, interviews, and court sessions, and you're doing it through his vision of seeing the world on fire, and you're examining different things. It could be so cool to have, right? Different sequences where you're playing as Matthew Murdock for talking to people, which works brilliantly well for the VR headset, which mostly works when you're still most of the time. Then have these full-on Daredevil superhero sequences, which play very similarly to Batman Arkham Shadow. That way, people can keep playing the game without getting motion sick. It would be absolutely brilliant to have. And given PlayStation's affiliation with the Marvel franchise due to their frequent adaptations of Spider-Man and Guardians of the Galaxy and so on and so forth, I genuinely think this kind of game would work brilliantly well for the PlayStation VR 2. And as I'm demonstrating here, would also work brilliantly well for the Meta Quest 3. I mean, think about it. You could be using your batons left and right and taking on bad guys using the whip baton, and then there's these sequences where you're dodging the bullets of Punisher and dodging the intense blows of Kingpin. You're exploring Hell's Kitchen, and you're bringing hope and restoration to people's lives, and then you can defend people as a defense attorney. It would just work brilliantly well, especially if whichever game studio decides to adapt this goes all the way with it and makes it rated 18. That way the experience can be more visceral on the VR headset, really capturing that gritty, street, urban kind of feel that made the Netflix adaptation so beloved. And the World on Fire vision gives people that kind of immersion to restore hope in people's lives, that people can get through this rough urban environment. Honestly, I genuinely believe this could work brilliantly well. The rest would just be a matter of finding a talented cast and whatnot to bring this kind of game to life. There could also be some more quiet moments where, say, Matthew Murdock is walking around a nice park, or maybe sitting down on the bench, or going into a church to talk to the members there, or just walking around the bustling streets. Whichever environment Matthew Murdock explores, sound design would have to be at its peak performance for the standards of VR in order to really get it to perform well. If they manage to succeed in that, people could be in for a real treat. But what do you think of the premise? Do you think this game could genuinely work? Or maybe it could be adapted in some other kind of way? Let me know in the comments down below, and I look forward to further conversations. In the meantime, ScotsThinker signing out.